Hey guys, it's Clara. I am super excited to be starting this today. It's to create this book by Moriah Elizabeth. Now, in this book, each page has a different prompt that you have to follow and create something for. The first step to this book is actually to decorate the cover, but mine came with a little scuff, but isn't too bad. I'll just wipe it off. Let's get started with the book. So I begin with painting the cover white, but this paint is actually really transparent, so I switched to another white and it worked a lot better. So the theme for my cover I went with is a blue cloudy sky. I put a piece of paper underneath the cover to protect the other pages. I'm using acrylic paint here, and I don't really paint that often, so it was a little bit difficult for me. Going over all the little details around the logo took a little bit of time, but I like how it turned out in the end. So after a couple coats of that blue, I added some white clouds, but this paint was also really transparent, so I had to do a couple layers. You could see the difference when it dried, but I like how the clouds turned out in the end. Now it's time to paint the back of the book, and it's pretty much the same thing. I'm just mixing up the same blue color and painting it a couple times. It takes like 3 coats. But I had a little bit of trouble because the blue I mixed up, I was kind of running out of that color paint, so I had to cut it down with that cheap white paint I was using at the beginning. Now, as that paint dries, I'm going to move on to draw the picture I'm going to put in the back of the book. So I'm taking a piece of this medium weight sketchbook paper and drawing my design. So for the back of the book, I decided to draw my character Clara. And I'm just going to sketch her out first and then outline her with a black marker. After I finished the outline, I brought out the Crayola colored pencils and colored her. I decided to use colored pencils because they're what I'm most familiar with and I could get a lot of detail with them. Here's the full drawing I finished. Now I'm just going to cut her out so I can put her on the back of the book. Now that the back of the book is dry, I'm going to paint clouds just like I did on the front so that they can match. I used the same paint, so it took quite a few layers, but I like the way it turned out in the end. Here it is, finished and dry. I did the sides while I was at it. Now it's time to glue Clara on. I did this with a glue stick, but I didn't use the Elmer's brand, and I had to use a no-name. And I don't really recommend it because it didn't hold it down as well as it should have. Also just fixing this little corner here. Now I feel like everybody has these jelly roll pens, but I've never had them until now, so I'm super excited to use them. My pack came with a white, silver, and gold, and I'm using the gold here to outline the logo on the front of the book. I wasn't really paying attention and I accidentally smudged it in a few places, but I think I got it to look okay by going over with the white pen to fix my mistakes. I thought the cover was missing something, so I got my ruler out and made this outline around the cover. The pen did have a little bit of an issue doing this, but I went over it a couple times and I think it turned out fine in the end. After I finished the border, I added some shines in Clara's eyes and a golden halo to match, and I also decorated the spine of the book. Here's what we have so far. The gold looks very shiny and I really like how it looks. If I could redo it, I would write the title of the book neater on top of the spine. I had a little bit of an issue writing it, so it didn't turn out as neat as I wanted it to be. At this point, the paint was very fragile and I felt like it was just gonna flake off at any moment, so I took some packing tape and wrapped the cover. Here's how that looks on the book. I think it's going to protect it well, and I like the shiny look it gives the book. It's time to get started on the inside of the book, And here's the first page. You're supposed to write your name on the bottom. I decided to decorate this page by using watercolor to make it look like a cloudy sky. I decided to use wax paper to protect my other pages from bleeding through. And this paper is pretty thin, and I didn't really expect it to do well with the watercolor. But once it dried, it didn't actually do that bad, and it only bled through a little bit. I was scared this color was going to be too dark, but once it dried, it actually turned out pretty good. I took that same sketchbook paper I used for the other picture and did the same watercolor thing to it to make it look like clouds. I took some more paper and drew Clara again so I can glue it inside of the book. So just going through the same process of sketching, outlining, and then coloring with the same Crayola color pencils. I'm going in again with my gold Jelly Roll pen to outline the logo like I did on the cover so it would be matching. After the watercolor dried on that spare piece of paper, I glued it in along with a picture of Clara. I'm writing my name in that same gold pen so it will match all the other gold details I added. As you can see on the next page, the watercolor did bleed through a little bit, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected, so I kept using watercolor on the next few pages. Again, I used some wax paper to protect it, and it worked pretty well. I was worried that on the left page the color was a little bit too dark even though I had used the same paint, but once it dried they looked pretty much the same. Now in this page there's an empty box and it says fill however you see fit. So I drew another picture of Clara on the scrap piece of paper and put it inside. I just did this with that same glue stick and it worked pretty well. I'm going in with my gold pen again and filling in where it says empty box and outlining the drawing. I decided the other page looked a little bit plain, so I added some gold lines to it. Here's how that page turned out. I like how the background looks and I think the picture is super cute. It's time to do the tips and tricks page, so I'm just going to be doing the same thing with that blue watercolor and using wax paper to protect the other papers. I wanted to add gold to this page, but I didn't want to fill in the tips and tricks at the top with the gold pen because I think it would be too much, so I colored in the thumbs up and thumbs down and added a line underneath the black. Here's how it turned out. I think it's pretty, but it's a little bit plain. The next page says, to begin, create this book, fill in the stars as you complete each task. So I customized the front cover, but the next one says to add color or text to the spine and edges of the book. And I didn't really do that, so I went in with an alcohol marker and colored the edges yellow. I wished I used something else to color the edges of the book because when I opened the book, now you can see the alcohol marker bled through onto the pages. I'm decorating the left side of the book by taking that same paper and coloring it the same way, but this time I added a little bit darker blue so it would look more like a nighttime sky. That didn't really work though because once it dried, it pretty much looked like all the other pages I did, but I still think it turned out fine. Again, I'm using that gold pen and I'm making stars on that page and filling in stars on the other page. Now that we've finished the intro and the cover, let's go over everything we did today. Here's the cover and the back. Here's the first title page. It's with watercolor and a picture of Clara. I also wrote the date in the corner because this book didn't have a date start page, but I think the other books do. Here's the empty box page where we drew a picture of Clara and stuck it in. And here's the tips and tricks page. I wish I added something more because it's a little bit plain. And the begin this book page, I like how the stars turned out. And I am super excited to be doing this book, and I can't wait until I can do the next prompt. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Have a great day!